And now, another episode of MMA Gossip with your boys.
Boom. We're live, baby. MMA Gossip episode number 54. I don't know what to do with my hands, but I think we're at 54. Anyway, it's a good feeling when you don't know where you're at. We're just going to go over it. You guys know the usual. Help the boys out. Drop us a like if you like what we're doing lately. Subscribe. Little comment never hurt. Yeah, UFC 259 just happened. We got another fight, Edwards and Bilal Muhammad coming up this week. Short notice main event, high-paced main event. Both guys, incredible cardio, so we'll get into that. Maybe a little boxing news, who the UFC is releasing, whose contract expired. Did Aljo fake it? Did he not fake it? Izzy's nipple was looking about 75% better. What does pound for pound mean? Because apparently half of Twitter doesn't know. And yeah, we got the boys got some questions for each other, maybe some questions coming from you, for you, all the above. So strap in, follow us along. We got at MMA X Gossip, all of our socials across the board. And yeah, I mean, our picks, we all did pretty well this past week. I know I did pretty well. Mike, maybe not so much, but he's in on a hot streak. So you got to dip eventually. Just like Sleepy Joe did the stock market. Everything that goes down must come up, baby. So
all right,
follow
boys.
along. We got the new upgraded picks. I don't even know what we call it. Just the new tracking system that I am taking the reins on. Thanks to MMA by the numbers. He inspired me to do it. So I'm just going to fucking do it. But with that being said, let's get into it. Episode 54.
Let's get into it. And for the questions we have for each other, we did not discuss these questions ahead of time. They will be asked and answered live on the spot, which I think is always more interesting. But yeah, let's get right to it. Let's recap 259 really quickly. Notable performances, in my opinion, were Sean Brady's awesome domination over Jake Matthews, Kennedy Nzechukwu, can't say that right, his comeback win against Olberg, Cara France with the performance of the night, Askarov soundly beat Joe B. Didn't see that coming. Kyler Phillips with the upset. Dominic Cruz with the great win and an awkward call out. Rakic with the controversial win and his delusion thinking that he took Thiago Santos's soul. Okay. Makachev does his thing.
Got his brown belt.
Got his brown belt for zero grappling, whatever. No big deal. All right. Let's get to the controversy, boys. Let's
asking my coach tonight where the fuck my purple belt is.
Let's get to the facts first, okay? So let's just recap what happened here. In that fourth round, the judges had it 2-1 for Jan. One of the judges had it 2-1 for Aljo. Had that round concluded before the DQ, I think it's unanimous that it would have been 3-1 on two judges' scorecards and then 2-2 on one judge's scorecards. So it was very clear and evident that the momentum was in Jan's favor and he was winning the fight. We can't argue these facts. Next fact, Jan threw a blatant, intentional knee to grounded opponent Aljamain Sterling. And from that point on, the referee asked him, hey, are you okay? You okay? Doctor came in. End of the story is DQ lost. Belt transfers from Jan to Aljo. And we have a new 135-pound champion, quote unquote. Guys, what are your thoughts on this as you're watching in real time? Matt.
So in real time, I think myself, along with every other person watching this fight, was like, holy shit. I didn't know it was possible for someone to be that fucking stupid, but here we are. Mark Smith literally screamed, he's grounded, and Jan basically said, okay, I'm going to put my knee where his forehead is.
I don't give a fuck.
Literally, I don't give a fuck. Me and Mike have been going back and forth about this for the last 2 days. Unfortunately, Aljo is not helping my argument at all because I'm starting to agree with Mike because he can't just shut up on social media. He won't shut up. And I'm like, dude, like, I get it. Like, you're a young dude. It's easy to get riled up by social media because you're so involved in it as opposed to other fighters who might not just give a fuck. He feels, and his coach is even out there talking. First off, stop attacking his coach. He has nothing to do with any of this. Like, if you're attacking his coach, blaming him for anything, you're just as stupid as Jan. But Aljo does need to shut up. He needs to not face off with Cejudo and post it on social media. I don't really care about like him posting with his family and shit because I told them, I'll tell you guys what I told them. I would do the same thing. Like if both of my grandparents are watching me fight in a fucking championship bout and I get the belt, like they don't fully understand and grasp what's going on. Like I get it. It's your circle of people. They flew out to watch you. Like, there's going to be a celebratory aspect to it. I'm not going to fault somebody. I just don't think he should have been posting about it that much. I don't think he was milking how much he was hurt in the cage. I think he was actually that hurt. But the whole cry, like, there was just so much emotion going on. You don't really know what's going through a fighter's head that I can't fault him for any of that shit. But the past 48 hours to me have just been a little bit too much. I think he needs to listen to what DC said to him, basically shut the hell up, get back in the gym, and get this fight rebooked. Put this to bed. You're not changing anybody's opinion at this point by talking. If you are changing somebody's opinion, you're doing what you're doing to me and making me be like, all right, maybe Mike has a point. The fight has to happen again. Do not, Dana, I swear to God, if you book him against Cejudo, he's not dumb enough. You guys don't think he'd do that, right? No way. Okay, good. But I feel bad for Aljo because in the same breath, he deserved this belt. I mean, this title shot more than anybody in the whole roster, in my opinion. He's beat the who's who. He worked his ass off to get here. The fight's been canceled once. Like, he's gone through the ringer with this whole shit. And you don't want to see somebody go out like that, even though he had the belt. You could tell in the heat of the moment, he wasn't pumped about having that belt. It sucks because he deserves it. You see guys get championship shots for a lot less. Jan, you have to use your head, dude. You can't be crying right now because you're a champion. You got to know the rules. You have to know what you're doing. And even if, dude, you're up, you're winning the fight. If I'm him, I'm stepping back, stand up, let's continue because I'm beating your ass up on the feet. All in all, fight's got to be run back. Aljo, shut the hell up. Not fighting Cejudo. Just cut it with the social media, dude. Enough.
For those listening, not on YouTube, I just put up a picture of me and Aljamain Sterling. I'm a huge Aljamain Sterling stan. I love him. I was, parading him getting the title shot. He deserved it, rightfully so. I'm not going to regurgitate what the boys already said. But in the cage, every fighter knows, right? So, Aljo, you're hurt. You're down. I get it. It just gets to the point when the doctor comes in and says, hey, are you, how are you? And you say, oh, my vision's a little blurry. It's better when I lay down. You know better than anyone he's calling the fight. The fight's over. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you hear that live on air, it's like, for me to know that, the doctor knows that, the referee knows that, the commentators know that, the booth knows that, Dana White knows that. You want out. I'm not saying you quit. No, I'm not saying that you quit, but you did not quit. You know what I'm saying? It's if you want, like, you could pull an Anthony Smith and eat that fucking knee, where John Jones did a back step and stepped into a knee to your head against the cage, took his time and kept the fight going in a fight he was losing, right? He had the same options that Aljo did and took the opposite route. Although it sounds like I'm harping on Aljo, which I am a little bit, obviously, I just think that there's two ways to go about it. You can either accept it and, play like the hardo, too tough for my own good, and continue fighting and see what happens. Where, granted, the tide was turning towards Jan, although it was a 2-1 fight. And if that knee, say he got deducted a point, even 2 points, we'll just say 1 point, it's a 2-2 fight after that point. You know what I'm saying? So anything can happen in a championship fight. Now, Aljo did it right. Fight ended. They wrapped the belt around him. He drops it, leaves in the middle of the cage. I can, like Matt said, even see the little family thing, but then the face-off with Cejudo and just the fact that you're going all over social media and defending yourself, saying you're not a quitter and this, that, the other thing, kind of shows that it's hurting you on the inside because you know what I mean? Only he knows, but when something happens to you that's like personal like that and someone harps on it, when someone makes fun of you for something you're sensitive about and then you get pissed, it's because it's fucking true, or at least somewhat true. Kind of sucks. I just think he took the perfect approach in the cage. Like, granted, you got kneed in the fucking head, completely illegal. Piotr Jan, you're a fucking moron. It's no one's fault but yours. Then, okay, Aljo, you're out. You got the belt, whole nine. Face off with the Cejudo, nightmare. And then following up on social media with all this, nightmare, dude. Just let the news cycle pass. Set the rematch up, shut people the fuck up, especially if Aljo pulls out the win in the rematch, then he becomes like the superhero. So just let this shit fucking pass. Like I said last night, take your phone, stomp on it, run it under some cold water, and get a new one in 2 weeks. and you're the bantamweight champion still. So congratulations. You worked your ass off. You came in absolutely perfect shape. You looked like a superhero. You looked like an action figure. So you clearly trained the right way. You were ready twice. Props to you, bro. You know, you didn't do anything wrong except post-fight actions, like cleared of a concussion. No, you know what? It was just a little, I don't know, a little much.
All right, here we go. I think he was milking the fuck out of it in the cage. I'm going to be straight up.
Wait, time out. I'm going to stop. I don't mean to cut. So this is why I want to make. Do you believe? All right. So the first time he stood up, you believe that he wobbled his own legs and he could have stood up completely fine. Like the first time he tried to stand up and he went like this, and they're like, "All right, sit back down." He was like, at what point do you believe he started milking it?
The moment he got kneed.
You think he was not that hurt?
Listen, I'm not saying he should have continued, and I'm not saying disqualification shouldn't have happened. I think this is okay. I'm going to say my point. Listen, I think he was milking it for this reason, and these are Aljo words, not mine. Okay, I wrote these down specifically. Ready? He said, this is his quote. In the moment, there's a bunch of things going through my head, and this is post knee. This is after the knee, right after the knee. He's thinking, Dana's not going to give me another title shot. The fight is going to be a no contest. Dana is going to say he was clearly losing the fight in the 4th round, so why would I give him another title shot? The direction of the fight was clear. These are the thoughts that are going through my head. And me, I'm never going to get the opportunity again. I'm going to have to win 3 or 4 more fights to get back into the position to fight for a world title, and I'm not going to be a world champion. These were his words, not mine. And then not too long later, he goes, I got hit. I saw a big flash of light. I go down. The next thing you know, I'm in an ambulance. Those are 2 contradicting quotes. Which one is it? Which one is it? That leads me to believe that he was 100% conscious and fully aware of what was going on in that cage post-knee. He's lying to himself and everybody else. He was fucking milking it.
That was like when Chris Weidman got hit with that knee against Gabriel Mousasi. He got hit and hurt by the knee and was actually hurt, and then tried to play. And dude, Chris Weidman, I've said, go back on podcasts. I say he's like top 3 favorite fighters ever. He tried to act more hurt than he was, but he was fucking hurt from that knee, and it backfired because he ended up not being grounded and lost by TKO. So that's when milking it fucking backfires.
And on top of that, you can argue with me all day, people on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, saying, oh, you take a knee to the face. You see how it feels. Like, whatever. I get it. I'm not a fighter. I'm not the one stepping in there. But he's the one that's contradicting himself, number one. Number two, all those post-fight antics that we were just talking about, the Cejudo thing, the pictures, the social media that he's relentless on, is just making him look worse. And it's just like he is the definition of a paper champ, which is so ironic because he called Jan the paper champ. And now we have an actual paper champion at 135. It needs to be rebooked. There's no way getting around that. And I'm calling it now. I'm saying that Aljo is going to try his hardest to not fight Jan again because he knows how that fight was going, the direction it was heading. Even his own coach said it, Ray Longo. He goes, Jan was coming on in the 4th and Aljo was getting tired. And I got to toot my own horn here last week because I said Aljamain ain't landing no takedowns, and he's the one that's going to get tired first before Jan.
Also, Mike, to keep going what you're saying, one thing I thought was funny was people, because the internet's undefeated. He went like 1 of 16 on his takedowns.
17. 1
of 17, and people are quoting him because before the fight, Aljo said, it's only going to take 1 takedown, I'm going to win. And it only took 1 takedown.
that's hilarious, dude.
It's like the internet is the best fucking place ever.
But you want to talk about levels.
Dude, but the other thing Aljo was saying was, people were saying like, oh, the tide of the fight was definitely changing towards Jan. Like Jan started to take over a little bit. And Al just said, yeah, my cardio wasn't as good as it normally was because I did something I'd never done before. And I tried a water load with the help of the UFC PI, and my weight cut was just totally different than I've ever done. Why the fuck would you ever do that before your first title shot? Like, oh, let me change out my entire weight cutting process before my first ever title shot. That's the time when you think is most beneficial to change it? I
think that's a clear excuse.
I think that he's just fucking digging himself deeper and deeper. Like, I'm on his side, and like I was more on Matt's side than with you. But now I'm like 75% the other direction. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm leaning that way too. The only thing I disagree with Mike on is 2 things. I don't think that he was milking the injury aspect of it. Like, if he is that good at making, like, he was wobbled. The doctor came in and shit. Like, a doctor's gonna know if somebody's faking it. Like, that part I disagree with, and I disagree with the fact that you think he won't fight Jan again, solely because I believe if he doesn't fight Jan again, Dana's either going to strip him or he'll literally just never fight again. Dana's not going to let him off the hook. He's not going to be like,
Mike's saying, like, if the Cejudo option presents itself, he'll just do that.
It won't. Why would he give him that? Especially, and this goes into my question I had for you guys. I'll just ask it now. I know that, like, it's such a gray area because it is the UFC rules, but in a case where it's this serious, given the title shot and the whole monetary aspect involved, do you think that there's a solution to deal with this situation from a money standpoint because of all the extra money Aljo's going to get now that he doesn't deserve? Like, that's kind of, that part I think is fucked. Like, the pay-per-view points, like everything, the whole shit. Like, that's, to me, that's the craziest part.
All right. I got a question that kind of goes along with this. It's actually one of my 3 questions. It is, do you think the fight should have been a no contest and there would be no winner? The belt becomes vacant and then they rematch to determine a winner, because that's win-win for the UFC. They don't have to do pay-per-view. Do they do pay-per-view points for if there's no
the champion?
No, right?
Well,
right. So that's like a win-win.
Conor McGregor.
Yeah. Unless you're Conor. But I think that I personally think it should have been a no contest, and then Jan is stripped of his belt. Aljo doesn't get the belt, and it's just kind of like a vacant belt, but we obviously have 2 number 1 contenders.
Jan would have retained it though.
Yeah, but does it have, if for no contest,
no
do
contest
the disqualification?
No, because no contest is like basically like it didn't happen.
Yeah, I just kind of wish that it didn't have to be that way, you know?
Yeah, dude, my thing, sorry to jump over you, Mike, is so in boxing, for example, if a fight, this is also different. So if there's like an incidental headbutt, right? So if it was real incidental and one of the fighters gets like a gash over his eye and the ref stops it, like, okay, or the doctor, you cannot continue, they go to the scorecards. So even if, I stopped because I have this fucking massive cut on my forehead, we go to the score, but it only counts if 4 rounds are in the books. So that's 1/3 of the fight. So that'd be like in a UFC fight. After the first round, or in a title fight, say 1.5, just say 2 rounds, just for numbers' sake, 2 rounds through the fight, it's in the books. But it was an intentional knee. So then it brings up another point, which I'm contradicting myself here, is if, say, Jan, same scenario, Jan knows he's winning, he's up 3 rounds to none set. Just, he was not, but again, numbers sake, anyone, doesn't have to be Jan. You could just throw a strike like that and lock yourself in as the victor. You know what I mean? Being that would essentially force Aljo to have to continue or lose. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it is a little different than boxing there, but there should be something where, all right, Aljo, look, we get it, bro. You got kneed illegally. A lot of fighting is a gentleman's game. Like, there's times where you get kicked in the fucking nuts. Sometimes the guy will go right after you, pretend it's a body shot. Sometimes, more times than not, though, like if I hit you in the nuts, they're all like my fault. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a gentleman's game at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Or you could be fucking Ed Herman and fake a nut shot, like a total. Dude. But that's another story for another day. But what I'm saying is, okay, Jan threw that knee in the head. Like Dana said, was it intentional? Yes, because Jan cocked back threw a fucking knee off Aljo's head. He didn't do it by accident. He didn't fall and hit him in the head with the knee. But in the heat of the moment, I can totally see why, his intentions were not to get disqualified and lose the fucking belt, So that could get maybe right there. Okay, the fight stopped. We go to the judges' scorecards. You know what I mean? And it would have been a split decision at that fucking point. Or they take a point away from Jan and go to the judges' scorecards, in which case Aljo would have probably won the fight at that point. You know what I mean? So maybe it would have still been the same outcome, and Aljo doesn't have to take the heat. So they should figure out something around that and maybe add something like that into the rules, which is one of the things I have, which goes in addition to another thing of live scoring. Are you guys pro or against live scoring?
I'm want to do it experimentally, see how it works. And the thing is, if you do it experimentally, you really have to do it for a long time to see how.
We've talked about this on the show before. And again, a problem with live scoring that you need to fix is the live betting aspect.
Well, then I think that would become null and void, don't you think?
The live betting, how do you convince the sports books giants to be like, hey, you can't offer live odds on UFC anymore? They'd be like, fuck, we can't. Like,
especially now paired with DraftKings.
Yeah, they'd be like, dude, you're crazy. Like, and I don't blame them either, dude. You know how many times I'm losing a fight? Like, I bet a fight and I see where the direction of the fight is going and I hedge mid fight, like all the time. Like, there's a huge, I would love to see margins on like their bottom line for like live betting versus pre-game wagers. There's no way they would literally take out a whole aspect of their business and just be like, yeah, we'll just throw it out the window. Like, no, that would never happen.
Also, what I think is that live scoring, like in a championship fight, you're up 3-1, and now you're going to the 5th round. As long as you don't get finished or 10-8'd, that you win. I think it's fighters will just run around the octagon for a round. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that too.
I mean, but then you have idiots like Volkov and Derek Lewis, where he was clearly up and he's still gunning for a finish with 10 seconds left, and then I'm ready to kill myself 10 seconds later.
Yeah. Well, that transitions right into congratulations to Verdict MMA, the makers of MMA History Today, right? It's the same people. They're all in cahoots. Props to them. They partnered with PFL for their live scoring system called Verdict, where fans can pick winners, pick the winning method, the round, such and such. But the main component that PFL is interested in is the live scoring aspect. And it's a 10-point, just like the UFC, 10-point must system. So whoever wins the round, 10 points, loser 9, unless the round is extremely dominant, 10-8, 10-7, so on and so forth. And then they average the total amount. So instead of getting like a 29-28 decision, it's the average of all votes one way, all votes the other way. So it would be like 28.89 to 27.93, and you get like really down to the nitty gritty of who and where. That also weighs in 10-8 rounds more heavily, because sometimes you just say, oh, that guy lost a round, I'll give him a 9. To other people, he took a beating, maybe they give him an 8. So a round really could be scored like a full flat out 10 to an 8.75, which would, when Sal D'Amato puts a fucking 8 on his scorecard, maybe to Dana White or someone, it's more justifiable. Obviously, this is PFL, not the UFC, but still, I think that this is humongous for the sport moving forward. Those guys are absolutely killing it. Between that and the Art of Fight, those guys are the fucking leaders in MMA, Twitter, Instagram, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So major props to those guys.
Chris, I have a question for that scoring. So you said that the general public watching the fights score it live and their score goes into the global scorecard?
No, it's just fans.
So what if someone's like, I have a bet on this fighter, and then I'm going to keep giving this fighter a 10.
Well, it's not going to, I don't think, well, maybe I'm fucking missing it, but I don't think it's actually going into the winner of the fight.
Okay. That's what I wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yeah. It's just for comparison. You know what I mean?
Cool. Okay, wait, one last question before we move on from Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling. This is my last question I have, and it's interesting because it goes along with Anthony Smith, and this is what Anthony Smith said on, what's his name? James, the guy, that underrated journalist that we love, James Lynch.
Oh, you said Anthony Smith said this?
Yeah, Anthony Smith said this, and I commented on somebody's Twitter, and they confirmed what I thought it actually meant. So basically what Anthony Smith was saying on James Lynch's podcast or whatever, he was saying that it's up to the referee to kind of determine if the fighter should continue or not. And this, before you jump to conclusions, because obviously it's a very touchy subject, he was saying because the referee wants to dodge all the heat. So he's asking the fighter, are you okay? Can you continue? This, that, and the other thing. But Anthony Smith is trying to say, no, it should be entirely incumbent upon the referee to make that decision, whether the fighter can continue or not. So my question to you is, do you think the ref should be the one responsible for determining if a fighter can continue or not? It's a touchy situation. And I really do think a lot of people would fall on either side. I, for one, think that if you ask the fighter if they can continue, there's obviously going to be biased, right? Because like you see Diego Sanchez be like, oh, if I get is it a DQ, do I win? And then you have fighters like Anthony Smith that sack the fuck up and finish the fight and then lose. And then there's fighters like Aljamain Sterling that, in my opinion, milk the fuck out of it. This is definitely argumentative. I really don't think there's a correct answer here. So what do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Matt.
Chris, you go first. I got to think.
It's not an easy question to answer.
Not an easy question to answer. I just think that Honestly, it could be the same thing. It could go. It might not change anything.
Yep.
If it was up to the ref. Nothing might change whatsoever because, fighters are too tough for their own good. So I think more times than not, you're going to get a guy like Anthony Smith who's like, fuck it, I'm good. You know what I mean? And the ref, and the refs know these guys too. Like John McCarthy says it all the time. Like when he sees McGregor sometimes go back to the corner and he's a little out of it, he says he knows McGregor's not hurt. He knows McGregor well enough to know that when McGregor gets tired, he gets a little like loopy, he says. And he said he came back out in the 4th round and looks better than ever. So like, they might take their personal opinion into that. You see a guy like fucking Clay Guida get kneed in the head. He's like the fucking Undertaker. You know what I mean? You think Clay Guida is going to be like, oh, am I going to get paid if I quit right now? No, Clay Guida is going to fucking pop up and do the damn thing. You know what I mean? So if you ask Clay Guida, can you continue? He's going to say yes. If you ask John McCarthy, I know he's not a referee anymore, but you said, can Clay Guida continue? He's going to look at Clay Guida and be like, yeah. You know what I mean? Especially because they don't want to take the heat for pay, or they say they have pay, fan influence, which I'm sure refs don't care about and they shouldn't, and the fighter's well-being, right? So if someone said, oh, Aljo, you can't continue, or Anthony Smith's a better example, the ref says you cannot continue, that's taking money out of Anthony Smith's pocket. You know what I mean? So he's getting 100 to show, 100 to win, and the ref determines he can't fight, but he would have. Alex Nicholson, this actually happened in PFL. He was fighting for the $1 million. He lost in the semifinals, and I forget who it was, Francis Barbarossa, maybe I want to say it was, beat him by a split decision, went on to the finals and couldn't continue because he broke his hand and was injured. So they asked Alex Nicholson, do you want to fight for $1 million in the finals? He was like, fuck yeah, put his gloves back on, starts warming up in the back. They come in, do his medicals, and they said that because he got kneed in the head at one point and got dropped, that it was like, concussion protocol, he couldn't do it. That could have been $1 million that the referee took out of Anthony Smith, out of Alex Nicholson's pocket. But if you ask Alex Nicholson, he would have been in the octagon faster than you could fucking blink. You know what I mean? He's that type of guy that you can, like, Peter Yan could have kneed him and then soccer kicked him and he would have still fucking said he's fine. You know what I mean? So it's just, I think there's a million fucking scenarios. I don't think this podcast will be able to solve them. We could have 5 podcasts just on this.
Yeah, I think it could, well, I'm not going to reiterate everything Chris just said because I agree with it. It just could be such a double-edged sword because, you could be potentially saving a guy from
Himself.
Further injury, or like Chris just said, you could be taking money out of his pocket. I think it's just assessing which is riskier. Like in Aljo's case, my biggest reason for not putting all this blame on him is, okay, if he was that hurt and a guy in his position at his age who's going to continue fighting, like, why continue to absorb that damage? He was already losing the fight. If the fight continued, unless like a miracle happened and he stopped him, he's going to lose the fight anyway. Like, I don't need to see him go back out there and get kicked in the head one more time to make sure he's completely flatlined. You know what I mean? Like, I thought he was really hurt. He looked really fucking hurt. The whole crying, and there was a lot of dramatics involved that we already touched on, but it like Chris said, man, it varies situation by situation. I don't think there's any right answer.
I agree. I don't think there's a right answer either.
There's
moving forward, guys, we pretty much talked the shit out of this, but I think we did a great job about it too, more than the keyboard warriors out there. All right, guys, where does Nunes go from here? Dismantled. Megan gets cut. It was her last fight on her contract.
That was one thing. She didn't get cut. It was the last fight. So they just didn't re-sign her. They didn't actually cut.
Thanks for the clarification. Don't want to put any misinformation out there. She is not being re-signed. Where does Nunes goes from here? I mean, Juliana.
Well, I was actually looking at the roster the other day, and I was doing a little bit of matchmaking. I think she should get. I mean, we haven't seen him in a while, but I think maybe like Zabit or Ortega, maybe Garbrandt at 135. She should probably fight. You guys look so confused.
Matt, that's a joke of the year, dude. Nice.
Dude, I'm being serious. Who else is worth, like, even Rogan was saying it. Like, who fights her? Who? Megan Anderson got hit once and she was like, wow, I don't belong here.
To quote you, Matt, you gotta be hurt to shoot on Nunes.
Like, have we ever seen Megan Anderson shoot a takedown ever?
Not like that, and not from that far away. Where, dude, Nunes shot that underhook and mounted her in 1 second.
It should have never been sanctioned.
No, dude, but Megan Anderson would probably be signed by like Bellator and do fucking awesome. So good for her, because now they have the 145-pound division. She'll probably challenge Cyborg next to fight. You know what I mean? So good for her. And I mean that probably won't go too fucking well either. But she has that option. Maybe go to PFL. She could go up to 100. She's a big fucking girl. Maybe she could go up to 155. Or what's her name?
Kayla Harrison.
Harrison could challenge her at 45 or 55. Like that's another option out there. That would be a fight that I would love to fucking see, and that could dip Kayla. That would be Kayla Harrison's toughest opponent to date. Even though I think she'd still fucking dominate pretty handily. It would give her. It could ease her into that Nunes fight somewhere down the line. Like if PFL can't keep paying Kayla Harrison, who the fuck knows? We'll see. Nunes, I think, just goes back home, chills with her baby for a little bit. And Nina's fighting soon, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then good for her. And then I guess just take on Juliana Pena and dominate that fight with fucking.
Why do you think they just don't book her versus Shevchenko?
I wouldn't want that personally, because then, dude, if Nunes win, I guess it would be at 135, so it wouldn't matter. But Nunes keeps her belt. She'd be the favorite. She'd win again. They've already fought twice. Nunes already won twice. And then if she beats Shevchenko, it totally diminishes the 125-pound belt, especially if it's emphatic. You know what I mean? And right now, there's really no one. I guess this is another double-edged sword, because there really is no one at 125 other than Mike's favorite fighter, Lauren Murphy, that can challenge for the belt. And so it's like, okay, neither one of you have a real challenge. You guys just fight each other, or they just keep cleaning out their divisions and recite. You know what I mean? Nunes is like the first fighter ever where it's almost like, okay, you just retire because, you know what I mean? Fuck it. We have nothing else for you. Literally, you beat the shit out of everyone. She murked Ronda Rousey, murked Holly Holm, beat GDR, murked Megan Anderson, beat Shevchenko twice. It's like, what the murked Miesha Tate. Like, what else do you want from her? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Domination on all ends. All right, so before we talk about Izzy and Jan real quick, I know we're all in agreement here. Let's just talk. What does pound for pound mean? What does it mean, Chris? What does it mean to you, Chris?
So I think first we should give people a background of why we're talking about this.
Yeah. Put out rankings, and they have Izzy ranked one spot pound for pound ahead of Jan Blachowicz. To me, and I've watched every definition of this, every fucking media member talk about it. The pound for pound list is essentially if fighter A and fighter B were the same size with all their skills in account, who would win a hypothetical matchup, right? So Demetrius Johnson is amazing all around, right? Fought at flyweight. He's not going to go fight fucking Francis Ngannou, but because they're, well, first of all, 100. Mighty Mouse is literally less than half the size of Francis Ngannou, but hypothetically, if their skills carried over to heavyweight, who would be better? Demetrius Johnson would be better pound for pound. You know what I mean? He's got better skills. Has a much better track record. Now it comes to the point where Izzy and Jan, they're very similar in weight. They're one weight class apart. They fought at the same weight class. On the scales, I don't care what they ballooned up to, whatever, on the scales, they were 4 pounds different. That's the same. You know what I mean? That's pound for pound. You're the fucking same. So now they fought. Jan won. Jan is better than Izzy, pound for pound. Even if he was 15 pounds heavier inside the octagon, that is still relatively the same. That's not saying Mighty Mouse and fucking Ngannou difference. That's not saying Habib and John Jones difference. This is one weight class apart where guys go back and forth between the weight classes. Thiago Santos was a 185er, moved up to 205 and knocked out Jan Blachowicz. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying Thiago Santos is better than Jan Blachowicz pound for pound, but I am saying that Jan Blachowicz is better than Israel Adesanya pound for pound. Sometimes weight just doesn't carry over. Am I saying that Jan Blachowicz is a better mixed martial artist than Israel Adesanya? No, I'm not saying that. But pound for pound, he is better.
I'll go as far as to say that Izzy's probably a better kickboxer and Jan is a better mixed martial artist.
Yeah, I kind of was contradicting myself as I said it, like in my head. But so then what people were saying to me on Twitter is Izzy has a better run and is more dominant at middleweight than Jan at light heavyweight, which is true. But that's not what pound for pound means. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, dude, holy shit. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, bro, I just can't take it at this point. It's just gotten insane. Then people were saying that one kid already, then I realized who I'm talking to, and one kid said that in 8 months, if you let Dan Hooker put on size and muscle in 8 months, he could dominate. I'm pretty sure he said dominate Yoel Romero.
Where's the punchline?
Who said that?
A kid on Twitter said that to me.
Oh my God. Yeah, just like Kale has a puncher's chance against Tyron Woodley 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's just pound for pound is usually hypothetical 90% of the time, even with fighters that are very similar in weight classes, like Khabib and let's say GSP, right? They're never going to really fight ever, but they're very close in size, and it's only hypothetical. You could say Khabib's better. I could say that GSP's better pound for pound, but we'll never have an actual answer unless they actually fight.
This same kid said to me, so you mean to tell me you think Jan is a better pure striker than Izzy? That's not what pound for pound means.
This is why I'm so happy I don't have Twitter sometimes, just because I can deal with utter stupidity.
It's a play.
I'm not saying it's a granted, but it's like putting Dan Hooker versus Romero. Romero would destroy Hooker, but give Hooker 8+ months to put on muscle properly and be even weights, and I would definitely give it to Hooker. With the 20-pound difference, getting takedowns and holding them there are a lot easier.
Ba-dum-ch.
Dude, I want whatever drug. Imagine Dan Hooker said today, I'm going to put on weight for 8 months and I'm going to fight Yoel Romero. Everyone would be like, dude, lay off the PCP. What? Lay off the Why? Dude, first of all, if he, you know how there's this Dan Hooker's not meant to be over 200 pounds. His bodies don't work like that.
You have any ayahuasca to share?
Jesus Christ.
Dude, but that's who you're dealing with. So, like, then at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to leave it at that. Because, and just to even make it more insane, Aljamain Sterling is now ranked in the top 15 pound for pound.
Those rankings are so fucking stupid.
So fucking stupid. And I was going to say the one thing, so to prove them wrong one time further. So they're saying that, you know, Izzy's better at middleweight than Jan at light heavyweight. True. Okay. Then why is Poirier ranked higher than Holloway? Holloway is more dominant at 145 historically than Poirier is at 155, but they fought at 155 pounds. Poirier won and is ranked higher.
Yeah,
he fight at 145 100 years ago, but you know, I'm not talking about 2013 here, boys. Anyway, on pound for pound, more so than not on MMA Twitter, people do not know what it means.
Moving on. Any thoughts on the fight itself? I just really thought that it was pretty easily. I mean, you can't really make a discussion for Adesanya winning. I thought Jan clearly won. I just thought the commentary was biased and the right man won.
I think that I know I was in the heat of the moment Saturday night. I just don't.
No, you would never do that, bro.
I don't understand. I didn't understand his game plan. What was your game plan to, you know, pump a jab and throw inside leg kicks for 5 rounds, bro? Like, you're fighting a guy that already probably weighs more than 30 pounds heavy. Like, to win that fight, you got to hit him with something that makes him put some respect on your name. Like, and especially in round 3, like, fucking John was like sucking wind almost. Like, and that's the part of the commentary I didn't think was biased. I think he was pretty fucking tired. And Izzy didn't really recognize it at all. He didn't uptick his volume at all. And his takedowns, Jan's takedowns were kind of lazy and sloppy. Like, they weren't anything impressive at all. And Izzy still couldn't get him down. Like, we've seen Izzy face guys that are better, hit harder, and just he still was more effective. Like, I want to know, like, I'm not trying to make an excuse for him, but just it didn't look like like the right Izzy at all to me. He just didn't have his foot on the gas. He wasn't mixing up his strikes. It looked like the same Izzy for 5 rounds. But when I previously watched Izzy, you get that in the first round, you get it, and then you start to see him build because he's getting his timing down. To me, he never did that in this fight.
No.
I don't know what it was, but it just, and honestly, I don't want to see it again. And I saw a lot of people saying this, and honestly, fuck all of you. For everybody saying that he should still fight John Jones, please get a clue.
I was the first fucking person I've said on this podcast 20 times. Never do that unless you want to destroy Israel Adesanya's hype. Never fucking do that.
Would never. John Jones is 3 billion times better than Jan in every aspect of MMA. You think that though he got taken down easy in rounds 4 and 5 against him,
and he's bigger, taller, stronger, faster, better wrestler, better striker.
John will take him down every round as often as he wants and keep him there. Like, what do you guys? And there was another one that was like, I saw this one comment that made me just want to fucking jump. It was if it said, if anything, this should make Izzy's stock go up because he had such an insane run at 185. And him coming, it didn't even make sense. And him coming up to 205 and losing this just shows how good he is. And that's the kid that I responded to. I was like, dude, you're a fucking moron. And then he responded to me. He's like, you're just mad because he got laid on for 2 rounds. Like, all right, whatever, dude. But like, there's so many people out there that's saying that like he should still be fighting at 205. This is his real weight class. Like, come on.
Dude, Aaron Bronstetter, who works for like TSN, which is like Canadian ESPN, he did like a whole scoring thing with Sean Sheehan and like about how he scored the first 3 rounds for Israel Adesanya. I know, like, it almost sounded like what Rogan and Cormier were doing. First round, 18 strikes to 13 for no takedown attempts, no sub attempts, no nothing, just 18 strikes to 13. Who wins? None. Second round, 23 to 21, same across the board. 23-21, significant strikes. Yeah, I'm not just saying whoever has more strikes wins, but I'm just throwing out some stats there. Round 3, Izzy, which on my scorecard as well, won the 3rd round. He had more total strikes, less significant strikes, but seemed to control the round more, even though Jan did get a little bit of a takedown in there. Okay, still did really nothing with it. Give it to Izzy. 4th round, 51 to 15. 1 takedown, and it doesn't say control time on here, but the control time for Jan was over 3 minutes. And then the 5th round, do I like need to get into? And I know Dana was, blasphemous about it not being a 10-8. I don't think it was a 10-8 either, but it was definitely on the fucking border. 64 strikes to 16.
I think it's just from a damage perspective.
Dude, and he ended the round fully mounted, getting ground and pounded, dude. Lay there for another 20 seconds and the fight's over.
But I think his argument was, and this I agree with, we've seen guys get mutilated over the course of 5 minutes and get a 10-8. Like,
also, he's defending Izzy, whether he says so or not.
True, but then if you're going to score that, which is a very...
No, it's not 10-8 on mine. I'm not saying it's 10-8, but it definitely... Okay. I can see why someone would.
Okay, that's fair. And I think real quick, just because of how crazy this card was, and honestly, I don't know what you guys think, prelims better than the main card on this. Not even close. Let's just run, like, Kyler Phillips looked legit as fuck. Joe B, please retire as soon as humanly possible. What'd you guys think of Dominic Cruz's return? I feel like we should touch on that because it's the first time we've seen him since Cejudo blew his head off.
I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, right?
I think he looked great.
Yeah, I think that he's looked better, but after a layoff and considering, in my opinion, the scoring could have gotten weird. Like, I think that both guys knew that they needed that 3rd round no matter what. Somebody gave him a 30-27, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So, but either way, you don't know. I really liked how he put his foot on the gas and said, I'm taking this fucking 3rd round. Yeah. Because at his age, with the commentary, you don't need to do that. You could have easily just been like, whatever. Uber impressive to me. I love to see it. But yeah, man, I need to give a shout out to Kai Kara France because that was fucking dope, dude. You defended submissions off your back for a decent amount of time, got up and said, I just lost this round. I'm going to finish the fight right here, and blew the guy's head off. I thought that was awesome.
Right.
It was cool. It was really cool.
Also,
and Brady,
dude.
Dude, I was so hyped for Brady to win, man. Like, when I'm a big fan of Tramp and the Tramp. Shout out Frankie Edgar and Roger Matthews podcast. And he was on there, and I watched his episode like 2 or 3 times. And dude, he's got that hardcore Philly accent, and he is Philly to the fucking core. You know what I mean? He's like Eddie Alvarez with tattoos.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, he's fucking awesome, dude. And I think he's gonna do big things. He posted the picture online after the fight of him just like standing over and Jake Matthews down, and the caption was "Protect your neck." Like, you know what I mean? Just
Bro, and he dropped Matthews too. Everyone's like, everyone was talking like live during the fight. It goes, Matthews is beating him up on the feet, which he was in the first 2 rounds.
I actually was nervous in the first round because he didn't look comfortable. And honestly, even in going into the third, I don't think there's any point in that fight where he looked comfortable in the feet. I just thought he was the harder striker, and he found a home for one of his big punches.
His left hook is nice.
Yeah, dude. He'll get better though. Young dude.
I said on the last podcast. We'll link that down below, boys. And let me interrupt real quick. If you like what we're doing and you're still listening, please hit the like button, subscribe, drop a comment. It helps us out more than you know. It takes you 1 second to do, and it really does benefit us in the long run. So if you guys could do that, greatly appreciated. But Sean Brady, dude, I said it on the last podcast. Like I said, link that shit down below. He really, really, really could take not everything that Jake Matthews worked for, motherfucker, but he could, take that veteran experience, use that veteran experience, learn, literally while he's in there with Jake Matthews, who's only 26, who's fought who's fought Kevin Lee, he's fought Diego Sanchez. You go in there and he already has that confidence. He knows more than Sean Brady knows in the cage. And Sean Brady still went out there and literally finished him, took him out. And now that's all that momentum and everything. Sean Brady owns that, and he'll bring that into the next fight. I like the way they're bringing up the ladder slowly but surely. And is he in the top 15 yet? No, right?
I think he is. I think he hit 15.
Yeah, I saw somewhere that he was. So I think he's like 14 or 15. So props to him. Someone slips on a banana peel in the top 10. He's right in there.
Absolutely.
Let's check the rankings really quick. I had him up in front of me.
And while Matt's doing that, my take on Dom Cruz. I thought Dom Cruz definitely won. I did not think it was a split decision.
14. It's tick above Robbie Lawler.
Yeah, that would be an awesome fight. But what was I going to say? Dom Cruz, right? So now they announce a split decision. I'm like, you fucking kidding me? You're going to fuck Dom like that? Then the last judge's scorecard is a 30-27. Yeah. I knew at least that it was Cruz who won the fight. There's no fucking way on planet Earth Casey Kenny won all 3 rounds.
Yeah, not if they're going to toss myself into a food processor.
All right, guys, we got about 5 minutes before we got to get back to work. Really quick, let's talk about Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. Let's just only talk about this fight because the card is relatively weak. And, well, it's the return of Leon Edwards, the guy who is pretty controversial lately. I think he's going to beat Belal probably 50-45 or if not 49-46. I just think he's a different level. And I think that his hype is real. It just takes forever for him to get back in the cage. And I'm so fucking excited to see this fight. Props to Muhammad, by the way, for stepping up. Love him to death. I just don't think he's ready for this leap.
So I have bad news for you, Mike. And Chris, probably. I have horrible news for you, actually. This is one of those fights where I am like Israel Adesanya, Greg Hardy level confident. There is no way in earth he loses this fight. Like, as consistent as Belal is, Diego Lima, and now he's getting Leon Edwards, and the line only being minus 250 to me is even more sketchy. I'm going to hammer Leon. I might not bet this whole card solely for the fact that I want to put everything I'm going to bet on this whole card solely on Leon Edwards. How does he lose this fight? Somebody tell me a route for victory that Belal Muhammad has.
I personally don't see it at all, dude.
Okay, good. $5,000 it is.
How much do you realistically think you're going to bet on Leon Edwards?
Honestly, probably like $2,000.
That's wild. You got a big ball sack.
Yeah.
I'll be dead by 40. My heart races during these cards, dude.
Yeah, Belal Muhammad does very, very well, puts pressures on guys and makes guys fold, but Leon Edwards does too and does it better.
And he's bigger. He's big.
Did you see the shape that motherfucker looks to be in right now?
Ridiculous.
The big boy.
Belal Muhammad just got out of camp, so you know he's in good shape, but how damaged could that leg was kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it's got to hurt still. There's no fucking way it doesn't.
I agree.
Aljamain, I think that was his UFC debut, but Alan Jouban, Vicente Luque, Jeff Neal, everyone that came forward on Bilal Muhammad beat Bilal Muhammad. Everyone that backpedaled against Bilal Muhammad lost. Bilal Muhammad's known for his excellent cardio, and he does have excellent cardio, puts a huge output on people. I think he just broke his own record on output in his last fight. But he kind of looked tired at the end of the third round. You know what I mean? Like he definitely started to slow down. He's gonna have to pace himself more. He's never been in a 5-round fight, especially not a main event. And it's gonna be interesting to see. That's for sure, man. I do think that Leon Edwards pulls this one out, but we'll see. And if he does pull it out, then we'll worry about that next episode. I want to keep ranting. I've been going off this episode, but there was so much to talk about. MMA is ever evolving, never fucking stops. But where he goes from there, I guess you have to tune in next week and see, boys and girls, MMA Gossip.
Also, guys, don't sleep on the card this weekend. We know it's not as big as last week name-wise, but got some big names on here. You got Gavin Tucker on a little run after being MIA for a while. He won 2 fights in 2020, coming up against Dan Ige. That's going to be a banger of a fight. I actually favor Tucker. Mike does too. I mean, Serkinov and Span will probably suck. And then obviously Charles Jourdain's at all action all the time. Ronnie Yaya, haven't seen him in a while. So there's a couple low-key good names, potential for some really fucking good fights. Don't sleep on it just because it's not 30 championship fights. Because as you saw, just because there's title fights doesn't mean the card's going to turn out.
Facts. All right, guys, I got to go. Last remaining thoughts?
Yes, two last things. Ben Askren and Jake Paul going down in Atlanta on Triller. It's official. I think it's a $50 pay-per-view. I will be streaming the fuck out of it. Dana White, come find me. No, I'm only kidding because it's Triller.
Wait, when is that, Chris?
The 17th
of
April. Sorry. Yeah. Well, should have footnoted that. But yeah, and he's training with Freddie Roach right now. I know that he's been in LA for like 2 weeks. So gaining from Freddie Roach is only going to help. Still, based on these vlogs I've been watching of Ben Askren, not looking to get it. I'll be rooting my ass off for him. Other than that, guys, I have a proposition for you after podcast because this is a little business proposition. And second, before I let you go, Mike, UFC 260. Let's lock it in. You guys come down here.
I'm in.
What's the date on that, Chris? I'll probably. What's it? Was it?
You can stay here. I said.
I'll probably have to stay by you.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's the 27th, right?
Yeah, something like that. 26, 27. All right, peace out, everyone.
Later, guys.